Good morning. I'm coming to you a little later today. It is definitely a Monday morning. We tease about Mondays, and during this pandemic, the days have kind of all run together. But today has definitely felt like Monday all over again, mostly because of the difficult last week that we had. I got up this morning and found out that one of my friends has tested positive for COVID-19, and I think that that's the first person that I have known directly who has had it, and that brings it a little closer to home. The case numbers in Chattanooga are rising at a fairly alarming rate, and that makes me wonder, are we in for worse in the coming few weeks? And that, of course, is alarming and makes it feel like Monday. And then, of course, for the last week, we have been watching what has been going on after the tragic death, murder of George Floyd, and what is going on with that. And I was up till after midnight last night just watching the live feed of downtown Chattanooga and the protests that were going on down there, praying for the protesters and praying for the police and praying for all who were involved, but feeling very helpless and not sure what else I'm supposed to do. And this morning I've been doing the same. Searching the scriptures and praying and trying to get my mind around what is going on and what do I think about all of this and what am I as a religious leader supposed to do to help bring peace to the community in which I live and work and that I love so much. And I don't have good answers. I do think I have a couple of things I want to offer, and the first is from the first chapter in James, where James tells us, "You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness." Now, he doesn't say we cannot be angry, and it's very important that we realize that. We need to be angry. There is obviously righteous anger. God has righteous anger, but he is saying we must be very slow to anger. And I'm coupling that James passage with Ephesians 4, where in Ephesians 4, 25 and 26, Paul says, "So then, putting away falsehood, let all of us speak the truth to our neighbors, for we are members of one another. Be angry, but do not sin." And what I'm hearing more than anything, more than about the anger in both of these passages, although I do think all of us need to be aware, we can be angry, but we need to make sure that our anger doesn't lead to sin, and that oftentimes the way our anger is going to lead to sin is what is going to come out of our mouths. But what I'm hearing even more than that is this idea that we need to listen. Be slow to speak, be quick to listen, put aside falsehood and speak truth to our neighbors, but we also need to put aside falsehood and listen to our neighbors. And so I want to just simply listen today. And I heard this morning on the newscast, one of the newscasts, a pastor in Minneapolis. And I want you to hear what he has to say, and then I'll make just a few other comments. But here is what he had to say from this morning's news.
Not a single person here in Minneapolis has told me they want outsiders coming in and starting trouble. But if you ask people, is this violence justified? You hear something that is more subtle. I met a 64-year-old man named Pastor Brian Herron. He leads the Zion Baptist Church. He remembers the civil rights movement. And he told me at first, this violence is evil, it should stop. But I got the feeling that he was not telling me the whole truth. So I just asked him a direct question.
Is there any part of you that still wants to get out there and burn something down?
Oh, please. All day, every day. But for God. That he makes the difference in my life. Man, you think I'm not mad enough to tear something up? To hurt some folk? But what good would that do? Who would that serve? What purpose would it serve?
So, Steve, even people who are nonviolent will tell you after George Floyd's death, I get it.
So in being slow to speak, let me say that where I am right now is that I am praying for shalom. Shalom is God's peace. It's not a peace that is the absence of conflict. If you come at me with a knife and I pull out a gun and you have to back down, we are in maybe a peaceful situation, but peace is not there. God's peace is where reconciliation is. God's peace is where redemption happens. God's peace is where love rules. And we aren't there as a society. And I think that this wonderful pastor, Brian Heron, helps us see that God is what can help us. God is, or who can help us, get to where we need to be. We can have anger towards rioters, towards looters, towards the police, towards whoever, but ultimately we have to find a way to be agents of reconciliation, ministers of reconciliation, as Paul said. And so during this day, I'm going to be praying for God's shalom, for God's peace, which is a peace with justice. And I'm also going to be praying that God will teach me and show me and lead me into how I can be a minister of reconciliation. And I invite you to do the same, because it is so wonderfully true. God is with us. Amen.